They pulled the strings, and you danced for a time, perhaps even willingly. The stage was set long ago, scripted by those who basked in the comfort of controlling others like marionettes. They hid behind kind smiles, hollow promises, fragile illusions. Every thread they tugged teased a reaction out of you. They manipulated perception, feeding on your doubts, your insecurities, your quiet hopes. They molded an entire narrative where your actions were not entirely your own. You may have believed that fate or destiny laid down your path, that your steps belonged to the grand design of a world too complex to resist. Yet something in you always suspected this elaborate show was not for your benefit. In the quiet hush after midnight, you felt the subtle tug at your heart, reminding you that you deserved more than silent obedience. Those who pulled the strings needed you pliant and docile. They needed you to never question their authority, to never consider that your destiny might slip from their grasp if you simply recognized the shape of the web around you. Remember that your mind is a forge, and with its heat, you can sever any thread meant to bind you. That is the lesson lurking behind the veneer of everyday life. Society may whisper that rebellion is futile, but your silence would mean conceding to their grand masquerade. So the day comes when you learn to flex your mind as a blade, cutting through chords that tried to choreograph your every move. That day is the day you emerge from their story to write your own. Consider how the world seldom announces the presence of these invisible puppeteers. They operate beneath layers of polite conversation, social etiquette, and cultural norms that pass as natural order. Most drift along in a daze, accepting roles assigned without protest. They feed into a system that thrives on control, each becoming a stitch in a larger fabric sewn by distant hands. Some blame the stars for their misfortunes, others blame luck, others sink into quiet resignation. Rare is the individual who realizes that often the suffering stems from allowing external agents to manipulate thoughts and behaviors. The harsh humor is that these orchestrators need no whip or chain to enforce their will. Mental influence alone suffices. Once they hook into your psyche, they make you carry out their intentions as if they were your own. Yet something shifts inside the one who dares question the narrative. A flare of understanding ignites behind the eyes, and the soul stirs awake. Awareness becomes a quiet, searing anger at the theft of personal agency. Then, at that moment of silent rebellion, you lift an invisible blade and begin slicing through each strand. They intended to keep you performing forever, but you discovered your own strength. Their game falters. Their smug smiles tremble. The show crumbles, leaving them scrambling in confusion. They try to salvage their hold by offering explanations, bargaining with hollow appeals. Do not be swayed. They set the stage once before. They can do it again if given a chance. Your recognition of their methods has deprived them of their greatest advantage, your ignorance. Now every empty promise falls flat. Every gesture, once accepted at face value, now reveals itself as a lure. Their world is built on assumption and subtle force. Without your compliance, their tapestry of influence unravels thread by thread. Once docile, you now ascend to orchestrator of your own destiny. This metamorphosis is quiet, yet seismic. Imagine the shock on their faces when the puppet raises its head, calmly removes each string, and smiles. That smile sends a chill through them, because it signifies no fear, no uncertainty, no blind trust remains. You have decided that no one shall write your script without permission. In this moment, the cosmos hushes as you assert your sovereignty. Amidst the wreckage of their collapsed theater, you begin to rebuild. Freed from strings, you find movement more fluid than ever. Your decisions come from within now, guided by self-awareness, sharpened in the crucible of manipulation. Those who sought to shape you to their liking never counted on you discovering their plot. They banked on complacency. Instead, your unveiling as a being of independent will marks their downfall. The silence that follows is not empty. It is charged with the energy of reclaimed freedom. In that silence, you see how easily people let themselves be led, how seldom they consider the possibility of cutting the ties. You, however, have embraced that possibility, and in doing so, you have disturbed a delicate balance. They who pulled the strings never imagined you could step off their stage. You are no longer audience or actor. You have become the architect of your own stage, lighting it with your will. As you move forward, aware that the tapestry of life interconnects all minds, consider that the strings they used were never merely personal. Their actions influenced communities, economies, entire cultures in subtle ways. Yet cutting your ties has impact beyond your lone existence. In freeing yourself, you demonstrate an alternative, one where minds need not kneel to unseen manipulators. Those who still dance on strings may catch glimpses of your independence and wonder if they too can sever their bonds. The influence you exert now becomes a beacon, not forced upon anyone, but shining nonetheless. In an era where collective mental energy powers towering structures, your refusal to feed the machine starves it of easy fuel. Their system thrives on blind agreement. Refusing to supply that energy is an act of elegant rebellion. No speech is necessary. Your liberated presence speaks volumes. They nurtured illusions of absolute control. Imagine their shock as their illusions dissolve into ash. With each string you severed, you shattered their image of authority. Their grand design falters, gears grind, and no matter how they scramble, they cannot restore the old order. The imbalance you introduce by claiming your autonomy reflects across the web of existence, stirring subtle ripples in distant corners. You have cracked open the notion that fate belongs to external hands. Now you navigate existence with eyes wide open, forging paths unknown, confident that you direct your sails, not them. Their regret emerges not as wailing lament, but as a quiet dread. They realize they never owned you, never possessed absolute mastery over your destiny. You simply awakened and walked away. This awakening can come cloaked in darkness. Realizing that no one else should pull your strings might stir fury, or cynicism, or even a villainous delight in the knowledge that you escaped captivity. Use that darkness well. It can steel your resolve, sharpen your wit, become a force that navigates existence without fear, without bending to the invisible marionette masters lurking in the background. Let them lurk. They have no hold on you now. If they try again, you can see their moves 100 steps in advance. Your mind no longer naive, your heart no longer desperate for approval. The silence that follows your emancipation hums with possibility. Each breath, a testament that you own your actions. Refusing to let them define your story might puzzle some. They may question your motives, your sudden confidence, your break from the old narrative. Let them question. Their confusion is irrelevant. You comprehend the stakes now. You understand that allowing others to control you robs you of life's essence. Without that theft, You drink in freedom's air. No illusions tie you down. Each choice reflects a pure intention formed in your mind, not imposed by concealed hands. The puzzle pieces of your past servitude fall into place, revealing how meticulously they tried to mold you. But the game ended the instant you saw through the act. Now the roles reverse. You stand as a silent judge, amused by their shock, unbothered by their attempts to salvage their position. They pulled the strings, you cut the ties, and in cutting them, you signaled to the cosmos that you answer only to yourself now. As illusions scatter, your personal evolution stands undeniable. The world shifts subtly to accommodate this new reality. Doors open or close does not matter. Your sovereignty energizes each step. The memory of their manipulation, once a bitter taste, now serves as a reminder that no one can toy with your destiny without consent. There is no going back. The old order crumbles as your independence takes center stage. Their once imposing aura diminishes, revealing that it was propped up by your compliance all along. The breaking point is your heart's way of telling you it has had enough. Consider how you drift through scenes of loyalty and compromise, bending to others, yielding, making excuses each time the world's claws rake across your soul. You wear a polite mask, feigning strength, enduring slights that scratch your dignity. With each concession, a piece of self peels away, exposing raw tissue of your inner truth. There comes a day when no apology can soothe, when no half-baked promise can mend what has been eroded. It is the silent rebellion of your inner being, whispering that a line has been crossed. This whisper gradually swells into a roar inside your chest, and in that roar, you discover the limit of what you can endure. The final straw might be small, almost trivial to outsiders, but to you it feels like the world's final insult. That is the breaking point, when your heart, weary of swallowing pain and pretending calm, decides it can no longer carry the weight. Others might think you overreact, but they know nothing of the quiet storms you have weathered. The breaking point is your right to say enough and mean it without flinching. When your heart breaks under pressure, it shatters illusions you once considered unbreakable. The pain carves clarity where confusion roamed. A mind accustomed to rationalizing abuse, betrayal, neglect, or indifference now steps back and sees the pattern. No one who truly cares would push you this far, would test your tolerance until you bleed inside. The breaking point frees you from the slavery of forced compliance. It tears away the facade. It releases you from your silent contract with suffering. After that moment, nothing tastes the same. The food of compromise turns bitter. The warmth of old relationships turns stale, and you wonder how you endured so much for so long. The mind replays each moment, each wound inflicted, each request ignored. It would be easy to slip into regret, but regret wastes the lesson hidden in the rubble. Instead, you hold your head higher, acknowledging that the pain you felt was your heart's final alarm clock, screeching to wake you from a long, poisonous dream. The heart, loyal and patient, tries to endure, tries to forgive, tries to see good where darkness thrives. It invests in hope that perhaps the pain was a misunderstanding, that those hurting you know no better. Yet each disappointment stacks upon the last, building a crooked tower that only needs one slight push to topple. That final push may arrive in the shape of a careless word, a broken promise, or a subtle act of contempt. At the breaking point, you find a strange liberation. Painful though it might be, it is also release. a permission slip to abandon what harms you. Instead of guilt for giving up, you feel a savage relief that you no longer must swallow their poison. Your heart's breaking point becomes a pivot, a crossroads, where you either continue the old cycle or step onto a path lit by your own worth. This moment separates the past from a future you can shape. The darkest humor lies in how others might react to your breaking point. They may feign surprise, feign innocence, or lash out, accusing you of betrayal. They never cared about the silent agony you carried, never suspected their casual cruelties would meet resistance. They relied on your patience as if it were infinite. But infinity is a lie. The heart's patience is vast, but not endless. When it shatters, it does so with a finality that leaves observers speechless. They never imagined your boundaries would snap into place, like a blade slicing through old cords. Now their comfort shrivels as they realize the cost of pushing you too far. In that shock, you see their panic. They sense the change in you, the unwavering stance, the refusal to play the old game. If they thought their hold on you was eternal, they were mistaken. The breaking point also forces you to acknowledge your own complicity. You let these slights accumulate, rationalize their behaviors, postpone the confrontation. The heart's breaking point is not just a reaction to their cruelty. It is a testament to how long you endured without question. Now, you face a painful truth. This moment could have arrived sooner, sparing you years of unnecessary suffering. But perhaps you needed this prolonged agony to appreciate the sweetness of liberation. Without extended torment, would you have understood the profound need to protect your worth? Pain breaks illusions more efficiently than any gentle reminder. The heartbreak of your last straw might sting, but that sting clarifies your priorities, teaching you that guarding your soul is not selfishness, it is survival. The aftermath of the breaking point reveals new horizons. Freed from the weight of old burdens, you stand at a threshold with scars that glow in the dark. Those scars are not signs of weakness, but of endurance and enlightenment. Each scar whispers a lesson. Never let anyone push your heart beyond its tolerance again. The darkness of this moment is not pure despair. It is the dark womb of rebirth. Your perception sharpens. You see people more clearly, smell agendas before they unfold, anticipate betrayals before they strike. Hardships that once knocked you down now seem trivial. The heart, having reached its limit, no longer trusts blindly. It scrutinizes, demands honesty, and expects reciprocity. The cost of your awakening was high, but the power it grants you is immeasurable. From this point, playing the old role of silent sufferer becomes impossible. You might feel tempted to return to old patterns, but memory of that final breaking point acts as a guard at the gate. Nothing feels the same. The taste of submission is foul now. You cannot pretend you never saw through their charade. The darkness you once feared is now your ally, providing cover while you claim your destiny. Among the ashes of your old submissive self, a phoenix of assertiveness rises. Others might accuse you of becoming ruthless, but they know nothing of the cost you paid to reach this understanding. Ruthless or not, you embrace the idea that your needs, boundaries, and well-being matter. This is not cruelty, it is fairness to yourself. The heart's breaking point does not instruct you to hate all who wronged you. It instructs you to never again place their comfort above your sanity. Caring for yourself was never forbidden. The old illusions had you believe otherwise. Now that the illusions crumble, Self-preservation feels natural, even noble. The mind reevaluates old ties, old dependencies, old fears, cutting away the dead weight. In many ways, reaching the breaking point was an act of final mercy to yourself. A line drawn, a vow that no future self will endure such torment. It demands that from now on, you choose alliances carefully, invest emotion thoughtfully, share trust sparingly. Life becomes easier when you learn to accept an apology never offered. Consider the weight of carrying grudges, resentments, expectations of remorse, carved into your mind like old scars. This burden thrums quietly beneath everyday thoughts, guiding choices without you even noticing. Each resentment grows a root system into the soft soil of your psyche, poisoning any new growth. Instead of waiting for words that never come, imagine simply releasing the tension, opening your hands, and letting the bitterness drop away. This is not surrender to weakness. It is a cunning act of liberation, reclaiming your mental real estate from phantoms of old wounds. The world clings to the idea that amends must be spoken out loud, that closure demands a neat exchange. Yet consider how often life denies such neatness. The one who harmed you likely thrives in ignorance, or pretends the offense never occurred. Their silence can stoke fury, make you feel small. But picture turning that silence into your advantage, embracing that no formal apology will ever arrive, and using that realization as a key to unlock your chains. You rip away the script that states someone must beg your pardon. In that ripping, power shifts inward. You stand taller, unburdened. In darkness, where old grudges lurk, illusions form that only spoken apologies can soothe your ache. But imagine the elegance of self-soothing, allowing your heart to mend without external permission. Some say it is naive. Let them think what they like. The heart that decides to heal by itself creates new territory of strength no one else can invade. By accepting an unspoken apology, you admit that others cannot set your emotional boundaries. This is an act of defiance, stepping beyond common narratives that insist forgiveness needs their voice. It never did. Forgiveness is a private currency you mint for yourself. When you stop awaiting their words, you stop letting them define your emotional weather. Over time, this practice sharpens your ability to stay calm under emotional assaults, to see manipulations for what they are. The silence that once gnawed at you now tastes like quiet confidence. While others hunt desperately for closure that never materializes, you become closure's living embodiment, an artist who decides how your scars heal. Some might fear this practice leads to apathy, but it's nothing of the sort. It leads to clarity. In clarity's realm, disappointment loses its sting, since you no longer rely on another's gesture to feel complete. Accepting an apology never given cracks open a new horizon of sovereignty. The idea unsettles many, because it removes the comforting lie that someone else must fix what they broke. Let that thought disturb old patterns. If you release expectation and offer forgiveness without waiting for them to crawl back, who holds the power? Now. You do. They no longer dangle closure like a prize. Their refusal or inability to apologize stops being a hook lodged in your flesh. You pull it out painlessly, leaving only a small hole that soon closes on its own. Now the balance tilts in your favor. Instead of feeling slighted, cheated, or humiliated, you stand composed, your dignity intact. The world's insistence on transactional healing crumbles. Imagine how those who sought to torment you shudder, realizing you do not need their words to heal. Without that leverage, they lose their hold. The shadows that haunted you fade into mere footnotes in your story. No longer enthralled by their silence, you become silence's master, defining what deserves your emotional investment. This process is not a gentle waltz. It's more like forging armor in a dark forge beneath the earth. Each refusal to wait for what will never come is a hammer blow, shaping you into something more resilient. People who cling to bitterness spend nights awake, rehearsing old dialogues, craving that one scenario where the perpetrator comes crawling on knees. But reality rarely offers such satisfaction. Instead, embrace a private act of release. In doing so, you hum a tune unheard by your offender. They remain ignorant of your internal shift, believing you still crave their contrition.